At UFC 300, Alex Pereira won his title fight against Jamal Hill with a left hook, and Ryan Garcia last weekend, he just beat Devin Haney with his left hook. It's a dangerous weapon in combat sports, and today I want to talk about how to beat the left hook, how these fighters can, beat fighters with a strong left hook. So to start us off, I'm going to talk about the keys to beating the left hook, and this is going to be if you're in the same stance as your opponent, both orthodox, or even if you're a southpaw, both southpaw, if your opponent has a strong right hook. And then, in the end, I'm going to talk about, how a southpaw can beat a orthodox fighter who has a left hook, like how Jamal Hill was a southpaw and Alex Pereira, an orthodox with a good left hook. So the first way to beat the left hook is to control the distance. The left hook is usually like a short-range punch, and your opponent, your opponent can land this punch when they're going forward, and they're pressuring you. I'll show you guys an example of Pereira trying to land a left hook, but Adesanya keeps the distance and he's able to avoid it. But your opponent can also land the left hook when you're attacking them. So I'll show you guys an example of Floyd Mayweather here, landing a combo, and then he's pulling away out of range, keeping that distance between them and avoiding the left hook. Another thing to consider here is you always gotta, retract your backhand, your right hand, because your opponent might try to throw that left hook as an intercepting shot. But there's also a way to counter this, and we'll talk about it later. The next key to beating the left hook is to not overextend. You don't want to do this because your opponent is always going to be looking to throw that counter left hook, that check left hook. I'll show you guys some examples of Alex Pereira doing this. You don't want to just rush in without setting up your shots. You want to enter the pocket with some combinations, and before you do that, you got to establish your jab, because you need to know that you're going to be able to land on your opponent and not be able to get countered. So don't overextend on that, because you will get countered and they're going to do it really, really quickly. The next key to beating the left hook is to respect your opponent's jab. You need to respect the jab, because the jab is what sets up the left hook. It doesn't matter if it goes to the body or to the head. The jab acts as a distraction tool to get your right hand away from blocking your face, and then creating an opening for that left hook. And Alex Pereira has used the body jab to really set up those shots. Sean Strickland and Jamal Hill didn't really respect this. That's why they got dropped by the left hook, and they were hit so clean by it. And they kept on parrying the body jab while they were either moving forward or standing still. And that's a problem, because you're walking into your opponent's range and you're leaving yourself open with that massive opening to the face. But to defend the body jab, it's better to either move away from it as you are parrying it too, or block it with your elbow with high guard. And a lot of MMA fighters don't really do this. They like to have a longer guard, or they kind of like to parry a lot of shots, a lot of punches. But sometimes, it is effective, and you don't have to it limits the openings that you do when you use a high guard and you just block with your elbows instead of just parrying everything. Now for the jab to the face, you can either pull the jab, or you can parry it, but you gotta mix up your defense. If you do the same thing over and over, your opponent is gonna pick up on that and punish you. So mix up your defense. Next key to beating the left hook is to bait and counter. And in MMA, you gotta firstly find what triggers your opponent's left hook, and then you can punish them with a takedown. And you can also, in boxing, if you have the proper distance, you can do a pull counter right hand, and you can throw any other punch following that pull counter. And then the last key to beating the left hook I have is the 1-2 combination. This works really well when your opponent, when his main counter is basically that left hook. You can bait them with a jab and then throw a right hand before you retract your left hand all the way back. This can be dangerous because your opponent can take it and then counter you with a left hook after you throw your right hand. But to avoid this, after the 1-2, roll under the opponent's left hook, and that will cause them to miss your shot. Well, yeah, and then if you're a southpaw, to beat the left hook, you can control the hands of your opponent to stop them from attacking you, but you can also duck under your opponent's left hook and then counter them. And lastly, for either stance, you always want to keep your right hand high. You want to engage on your terms to dictate whenever the exchanges happen, and to make sure you always stay safe. To recap, first, control the distance, don't overextend, respect the jab, bait and counter, and off B1-2. For southpaw, control the lead hand, duck and counter, and for either sense, always keep your right hand high. And if you do all this, you will beat the left hook.